The story begins by showing a secret intelligence team consisting of several trained agents. They are on a mission to find out important information about someone. From the effort they put in, it is evident that this group of secret agents are very intelligent, well-trained people and experts in their respective fields. And this is Mission Impossible. His name is Jim, the leader of a secret intelligence agent under the auspices of the CIA who happens to have just received a new mission. So, Jim, who was on the plane, immediately went to Prague to meet all his team members.
Embassy in Prague. He is also a traitor. Shadow Golitsyn to his buyer and apprehend them both.
And let me introduce you to the 5 secret agents who will carry out this mission. The first is Ethan Hunt, aka the key agent, or in scientific language, he is called the main character. Then there is Jack, the technology expert, or what can also be called a hacker in this team. Then there are 3 female agents who play supporting roles such as Sarah, Hannah, and Jim's wife, Claire.
Outside in the vehicle. Hannah will join you as Golitsyn's character during a party. Hannah, you'll have him for the duration of the interior. You game?
Wouldn't have it any other way.
This mission itself will be located in the embassy building, where their target is a traitor under the guise of ministry staff named Alexander Golitsyn. And Ethan and his friend's mission is to get photos or evidence of Golitsyn stealing important data and arresting him while carrying out transactions to buy and sell that data to buyers.
We photograph Golitsyn stealing the knock list. Follow him to his buyer.
As a form of preparation, Jack showed Ethan a new device he had created in the form of an explosive in the form of chewing gum. If Ethan is caught in a certain situation, Ethan can clump the gum and it will explode within 5 seconds.
You mash them together. Hasta lasagna.
Not only that, the ladies will also wear glasses equipped with a surveillance camera and microphone which function to communicate with each other while on a mission.
There's a camera built right into the bridge. Whatever you
If it goes wrong, I call abort. Everybody walk away immediately.
Long story short, they were already in their respective positions where Ethan himself disguised himself as someone important in the event. While Sarah will be an uninvited guest and is not on the guest list. So Jack's job is to hack the security system to trick the security forces.
Windows open by 2300.
Peter Brandl, the mayor of Prague.
Not long after, the target, Alexander Golitsyn, appeared. Sarah secretly sprayed a marker liquid in the form of perfume so that Hannah, who was on the top floor, could easily monitor Golitsyn from there.
I'm going to introduce you to
Your advance.
Governor's in position now.
Ethan and Sarah themselves went to a more private place under the pretext of discussing something confidential. The security forces did not find Sarah on the guest list, so Jack was required to immediately enter Sarah's data into their system.
Be right back.
Behind one of my best stallions.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.
After succeeding with that, Ethan and Sarah entered the elevator to the embassy's secret room. There they intend to put surveillance glasses so they can catch them red-handed when Golitsyn is stealing their data.
Get moving, Ethan.
That's when Hannah informed him that Golitsyn was heading to the room they were both in. Ethan and Sarah immediately had to get out of there, but because Golitsyn had already entered the elevator, there was no other way for Ethan and Sarah than to hide right under the elevator.
I'm opening the doors. Go under. Go.
After managing to get photo evidence when Golitsyn stole data from his computer, Ethan immediately took off his mask and immediately left the building. There, Ethan had to pretend he was making out with Sarah so that people around him wouldn't get suspicious.
Go to transport.
The mission is not finished here, because they have to follow Galitzin to find out who the person who bought the data is. But a problem arose when Jack, who was right above the lift, couldn't get out because the lift suddenly moved by itself, so... Seeing one of his men die, Jim, who was at headquarters, immediately went down to help Ethan and his friends. He looked very panicked when he realized someone was following him and told Ethan to cancel this mission.
The package is out in the open.
We're being ambushed, Ethan. Abort, that's an order.
They're covering this frequency.
Cut all radio communication.
Not wanting Jack to die in vain, Ethan continues this mission by telling Sarah to follow Galitzin while he goes to the bridge to help Jim, who is being followed. During that trip, Ethan saw Claire, who was in the car, and was tasked with picking them all up. However, Jim had the misfortune of being shot dead by someone who did not know who the perpetrator was. Not only that, Hannah and Claire also died when the car they were traveling in exploded. Ethan realized that Sarah was in danger, but it was too late for him because Sarah had already been stabbed to death with a knife. Galitzin, who also died with the stolen data no longer in his hands. After all his team members were killed, Ethan immediately went to the telephone booth to contact the leadership, aka the top officials of the CIA government, which oversees this secret group. Ethan was told to go to a cafe to meet directly with his boss.
You went safely, then we'll worry about that, okay? Or you follow.
Located in a cafe with an aquarium theme, Ethan meets his boss, aka the head of the CIA, Eugene Catry. He said that there were traitors within this organization, which for the last 2 years had been continuously investigated.
Blowback in IMF operations. We have a penetration.
Yesterday, they managed to crack the code from the internet with the code number 314 sent by an arms dealer named Max. This person named Max is a potential buyer who will buy the data from Galitzin. So it can be concluded that this mission is just a scenario to find out who the traitor is in this organization. Meanwhile, the original data turned out to be stored safely in a secret facility, aka CIA headquarters in the Langley region of Virginia, with the fact that Ethan was the only survivor. Eugene concluded that the traitor was Ethan. Eugene asked Ethan to surrender amicably and be tried as fairly as possible by a United States court.
Why don't we quietly... All right, Hunt. Enough is enough.
Not accepting that all his friends died and was slandered as a traitor, Ethan secretly took something from his pocket, namely the explosive chewing gum that Jack had given him. Ethan lumped up the gum and intended to blow up the aquarium there. Because he had no place to escape, Ethan returned to his base at a hotel. He took off his jacket to break the lamp glass so he could find out if someone was trying to enter his room. In this bad position, Ethan didn't immediately run away to escape the problem, but chose to find out who the traitor was by contacting Max, who Eugene had said. But to be able to contact him, Ethan had to be able to understand what the 314 code that Eugene had said meant.
Job 3:14.
When he looked at the Bible, Ethan realized that the 314 code was a code consisting of chapters and verses. After successfully solving it, Ethan immediately sent a message to someone named Max to meet him in person with the aim of finding out who the real traitor was. While having a nightmare, Claire appears, who turns out to be still alive, even though Ethan had seen her in the car and it exploded together with Hannah. However, Claire admitted that she got out of the car to follow Ethan to the bridge. This explanation finally made Ethan believe it.
What happened to Jim?
Wake up, Claire! Jim's dead!
Sent me. No one sent me. We were supposed to be back here at 4 o'clock.
The next morning, Max finally replied to Ethan's message and was willing to meet. Ethan was told to go somewhere with the condition of buying a pack of Dunhill cigarettes and asking someone sitting on a chair on the side of the road for a lighter.
Excuse me. Could I trouble you for a match?
You wish to meet Max? Very well.
And here is Max, who turns out to be a woman who is known to be a weapons dealer. Ethan's arrival here is to tell Max that the data on the disk he currently has is fake, because the real one is stored well in Langley, Virginia, more precisely at the headquarters.
It's bait. Part of an internal mole hunt.
Ethan made an agreement that he could bring Max the original data as long as Max would give him $150,000 today. If Max doesn't believe everything he says, he is invited to open the fake disk, which may be equipped with a tracking device that will make this place surrounded by CIA agents.
$150,000 today. You'll have Virginia farm boys hopping around you like Jack. I'd suggest you pack first.
Unsure of everything Ethan said, Max was determined to open the disk to find out the authenticity of the data. Then the signal capture device showed that there were unusual movements. Max started to panic a little just as the CIA agents were in position to surround the place.
Man's gone black, Barnes.
And yes, Max managed to leave on time and took Ethan with him, a sign that Max believed everything Ethan said and was willing to give him $150,000. Ethan asked Max for one more thing, namely to help him meet the CIA traitor. When later, he managed to get the original data disk.
$10 million in negotiable U.S. Treasury certificates and bearer form coupons attached.
Time chasing after him. Just make him come to us. He has pressure points.
With $150,000 enough for Ethan to carry out a plan to retrieve the original disk at CIA headquarters. Claire, who wants revenge against her husband Jim's killer, offers to take part in this impossible mission.
I want to get the son of a bitch who did this.
Because it was impossible to carry out this mission alone, Ethan and Claire asked for help from two local secret agents, namely Luther the Hacker and Krieger the Brutal. They will both help Ethan in this very, very impossible mission.
Exfil opens the pocket. CyberOps lifts the wall.
Payment on delivery?
And let me show you all how difficult and impossible this mission is. First, the disk or data is stored in an armored room with a high level of security. Secondly, only one person has access to the room, namely a special staff member named William. To enter there, voice and retina recognition is required and a certain code that only he knows.
The terminal is in a black vault lockdown, identification, and a 6-digit access code. And finally,
third, the steel room is equipped with the latest technological security system, which contains super-sensitive heat sensors. If you pass it then, it will be immediately detected, which causes the alarm to go off and your history will end.
the room will trigger it if the temperature rises just a single degree. Believe me when I tell you, gentlemen.
There's a single air duct at the very top, but it is equipped with lasers scattered along the duct. Then there is a sound sensor, which is also super sensitive, so that if you whisper in this room, it will immediately be detected.
The first is sound sensitive. Anything above a whisper. The system is on the floor and is pressure sensitive.
Lastly, the floor is equipped with load sensors, which are equally sensitive. If even a small drop of water drips, it will immediately activate the emergency alarm. Luther also asked whether this would work. Ethan answered that the road was still very far. It was impossible to anchor if the oars were not wooden. Long story short, Ethan, Claire, and Kruger were already at the location disguised as firefighters. while Luther is in the car to hack into the CIA headquarters system, starting with sounding the fire alarm, a sign that the three of them were needed in this place.
We picked up alarms in Sector 3, 7, and 12.
Yeah.
When Ethan and Krufer were being directed by security, Claire secretly entered a room to change costumes and disguise herself as one of the staff at this headquarters. The purpose of him doing this was to be able to drip liquid that triggers stomachache so that William's father doesn't have peace and quiet, which requires him to go back and forth to the bathroom.
Hi there.
Ethan and Kruger were already in the room that was on fire. The security guard, who was starting to get suspicious, was immediately paralyzed and almost killed if Ethan had been too late to prevent Kruger from carrying out the sadistic act.
Where's the other guy?
And yes, Ethan's plan turns out to be to enter through the air duct where his hand is equipped with a sound detection device so he can be alert to the sound it produces. With Luther's expertise, he could easily turn off the laser in the chimney, so that Ethan could go down using the rope that Kruger was holding from above. Ethan almost got caught when William's father suddenly came inside. While he was updating his data, suddenly his stomach made a sound indicating that the laxative had taken effect, requiring him to go to the toilet.
Oh.
Ethan quickly accessed his computer to retrieve all the important data needed. Suddenly, the problem arises again when a rat crawls closer to Kruger, and suddenly, in those 10 seconds, another problem arose again when Ethan's sweat dripped through his glasses, but luckily he managed to hold it in so that Kruger immediately pulled him back up. But
Merci.
long story short, the four of them were in London to make an exchange with Max. When Ethan was busy making an appointment with Max, Kruger suddenly acted out by threatening Ethan while showing him his disc. Ethan, who was much smarter, showed the original disc from his suitcase. Then he showed a little trick of hand speed while saying that he was already 2 steps ahead of what Kruger was thinking at the moment.
Trick.
You're thinking back in the computer room, I was up here, he was...
And what a genius Ethan was when he took back the disc that was thrown away by Kruger just now, and it turned out that the disc was really the original. So it's not wrong when I say that Ethan is 2 steps ahead of what Kruger is thinking.
You did have the knock.
I want you to hold on to it.
What makes you trust me?
That's when Ethan was shocked when he saw his mother on the news on television accused of being involved in a crime committed by her son. Ethan immediately went to the telephone booth to call Eugene, so as not to involve his mother in this matter.
We've been watching a little TV.
He's in England.
Get MI5.
Austin.
And Ethan was even more surprised when he saw that Jim was still alive. Ethan immediately invited Jim to sit down together and try to hear about how he managed to survive.
I managed to drag myself back to the safe house. Must have just missed you.
That's when Ethan apparently realized that the traitor that the CIA and Eugene had been looking for was his own boss, namely Jim. He had the heart to kill Jack by hacking the elevator and also blowing up Hannah while she was in the car, and killed Sarah with Kruger's help using a knife he often carried and pretended to be shot dead, even though he was the one who did it himself.
Ethan? Ethan?
And as usual, Jim does all this, of course, just for the sake of money. Especially with a small annual salary and the services of a secret agent that no one will appreciate or remember, Jim feels the need to retire rich by selling the disc to Max.
Marriage and 62 grand a year.
Ethan tried not to show his emotions and disappointment in front of Jim. So Jim didn't know that Ethan was aware of all his crimes and instead explained his plan to sell the original disc to Max.
I was in a cafe waiting for you, Ethan.
Before returning to the hotel, Ethan took the time to change the location of his appointment with Max to the train. When Ethan arrived at the hotel and saw Claire with the room attendant, Ethan was still very curious whether Claire was in cahoots with Jim or not.
We're on for tomorrow.
The next day, Eugene and the CIA managed to find out the location of Ethan and Max's meeting, which was most likely Ethan himself who told them. Located on the train, Ethan contacted Max that he couldn't be there in person, but he had placed the disc right under the seat that Max was currently sitting on.
Dear boy.
Max told Ethan that he had kept the money or payment in another carriage in the form of original printed paper. So Claire, who was on the train, was assigned to collect the money.
Silver briefcase combination 314.
I'm right behind you. The money's in the baggage car. I'll meet you there.
At the same time, Eugene and the CIA are seen looking for Max, whose appearance is not yet known. On the other hand, Luther tried to interfere with Max's laptop signal so that he could slow down the ability to open all the data.
Try it again. Check the batteries.
I always check the
Returning to Claire, who was already in the baggage carriage, Jim was already sitting there. Where finally a surprising fact was revealed about Ethan's suspicions about Claire. It turns out that it is true that Claire has conspired with her husband Jim to retire rich by sacrificing her own team members.
We take the money. Ethan takes the blame.
And yes, the person in front of him turned out to be Ethan in disguise to prove whether Claire was involved or not. So this fact was enough to make Ethan disappointed with what he and his husband had done to their own team members.
Of course, I'm very sorry to hear you say that, Claire.
That's when the real Jim appeared with a gun in his hand. Ethan was forced to hand over the printed money. But before that, Ethan asked permission to wear glasses, which apparently were equipped with a small camera that was connected directly to Eugene.
The only one who's seen you alive.
Morning, Mr. Felt.
There was a karmic moment when Jim killed his own wife because she prevented him from killing Ethan. Jim also managed to escape via the top route, but strangely, he didn't make sure that Ethan died as if he deliberately wanted to be chased by the main character. Another impossible scene occurs when Ethan crawls on top of a speeding train. Jim himself used a wall mount to keep him afloat while waiting for Kruger to arrive by helicopter. Unable to let Jim escape, Ethan tied his helicopter's rope to the train carriage, so that Kruger had no other choice but to take his helicopter into the tunnel.
In the tunnel!
With all his might and effort, he was almost hit by the next train and even almost cut off by the propeller. Ethan finally managed to get onto the helicopter. There, he still kept the chewing gum explosive and attached it to the helicopter. After everything ended, Eugen finally succeeded in getting the target he wanted, namely Max. After some time has passed, Ethan and Luther are officially friends, but Ethan chose to retire early after being offered the role of Jack Reacher.
Being off the disavowed list.
Hey, I'm the flavor of the month.
While on the plane to his hometown, Ethan was approached by a flight attendant who offered him to watch a film. But from the way he offered it, it was clear that the cassette being offered was not a film cassette, but rather a cassette containing a recording of a new mission that would make Ethan interested and carry out the next mission.